Hello and welcome back. It's me, Seth Perler, and I'm here with today's tool, which is called BinderSync. Now, if you're a student who likes binders, that's totally fine. Do what works for you. But I'm going to talk about what my beef is with binders, okay? So the students that I work with are very creative, right-brained thinkers that tend to not be good with details. And binders require a lot of details. So let me get into this here. First of all, let me start with some misconceptions. So these students that I work with tend to be disorganized. So left brain organized people who are trying to help these right brain disorganized people think that if you do what a left brain organized, linear, sequential, structured person does, someone who's naturally organized, if you do what they do, then you'll become an organized person. It doesn't work that way. You need different systems that are tailored to your brain and your thinking. And you tend to be an abstract thinker, and you tend to be a very big picture global thinker, and they tend to be very detail oriented. Neither is better or worse. That's not the point. But school tends to be geared towards people who are very linear and structured and detail oriented. And people who are right brain and disorganized and more, a lot of times more of the creative types that don't fit into boxes often have trouble with this system that tends to be very geared towards linear structured thinkers. So there's this misconception that if you do what they do, then you'll be organized. And one of the things that highly organized people do well is they maintain binders well. And they like the feeling of structure and control that a binder gives them. And I see so many teachers that require students to have binders with different sections for homework, for notes, for tests, for study guides. Sometimes I'll see in one class, a teacher requires a student to have 5 or 6 different sections for one class. Now, again, for people who are very organized and structured, that feels good and organized and in control. But for somebody who's very right-brained and who struggles with organization, it's a nightmare. And it makes them feel like they can't be successful. And it makes them feel more disorganized. So you need a system that feels good. I've also seen teachers do binder checks where they'll literally give a grade for binders. And to me, this is very unfair because it favors people who are naturally organized and left-brained, and these kids have an advantage naturally, which I don't think is fair because it doesn't examine how the people are learning the content of the class, what's going on with the learning in the class. So I'm not a fan of these binders. And now, a lot of my students who do like binders, my right brain kids who do like binders, actually don't use the binders in the way they're designed to be used. They really use them just as a storage place. Often they don't click the papers even into the binder itself. It's more a storehouse for things. So there's a lot of misconception here again. So let me move on with the next one here. There are 3 main systems that I see people using. Well, really 4. One is complete chaos. Okay, we'll start with that one. 2 is using the binder, the 3-ring binder, a way that a binder is intended to be used, putting coursework onto the rings themselves. 3 is to use accordion folders. Those are folders that lift up like this, and then there's an accordion, and there are different slots for each class. And those can be really effective for my students too. And 4, my most preferred method is to use cheap paper folders, those 50-cent folders that you can get at any office store, and to have one folder for each class, which is color-coded. So let's see if I'm ready for the, oh yes. So what makes a good system for managing papers? Whether it's a binder or an accordion or a folder system, what makes a good system? Well, here are some of the things that work for my students. A good system is clearly labeled. So if you're using, for example, the folder system, perhaps red is math. On the front of the folder, it says math. The name is in the upper right-hand corner of the folder. Flip it over, it might say math, and the name on the back of the folder. All that folder is for is math. I don't even care if my students get it into the pocket of the folder. I just care that math gets in the math folder. Perhaps yellow is social studies, maybe green is science, maybe blue is language arts, maybe purple is French, or whatever the case may be. But a good system is clearly labeled and usually is color-coded, because my students are very visual, and they start looking for where is my orange folder rather than where is my engineering folder. So there, a lot of times that color coding really helps the brain to find what you're looking for. A good system also often has a corresponding or matching composition notebook. I typically prefer the composition notebooks over the spiral notebooks, because the spiral notebooks get bent up and the papers fall out for kids that are not organized. For kids that are organized, spirals work fine, but usually composition notebooks work better. So perhaps you have a red composition notebook and a red folder for math. They're both labeled very clearly, and that's part of a good system. A good system for organizing the papers also, again, has the name and has the name on each paper. So my students notoriously forget to put their names on things, so getting the name on every single thing possible is part of a good system. A good system is very simple and easy to use. A good system is one that you can actually articulate to somebody. Oh, this is how I set up my system. I use this folder system or this accordion, and this is where this goes. A good system has a place for work that still needs to be done or work that still needs to be turned in. That is what I call a queue. I like to get students set up with a separate folder called the queue that is a storehouse for anything important. Things that need to be done or things that are done and need to be turned in. Things that are basically, you can think of them as living organisms in the folder system. The ones that need to be addressed are in the queue. So a good system has that. And a good system has another visual aspect, which I use a lot, which is flags or sticky notes that you put on things that need to be turned in that are sticking out of the folder a little bit so you can see it. Because for a lot of my students, out of sight is out of mind. There can be a paper that was due 2 months ago that they have a 0 on that's finished inside the backpack because they never see it because it's just a white piece of paper mixed into a mass of papers. So using a sticky note in your system to flag things and label where it needs to go is very powerful for a lot of my students. So it's a pretty quick video. These are the 3 main systems, and what I want you to try is to revamp your system. Really ask yourself if your system is working, and ask yourself what kind of a paper management system would work best for me. So I want you to try revamping the system. It'll take you about an hour, unless you need to go to the office store and pick some stuff up, to really think out, label everything really clearly, and really get a home for each subject. Now I'm going to leave you with one rule that I tell my students. Thou shalt not put papers in a folder that is not the right folder. I don't care if you put your math paper just in the backpack or in the queue or somewhere to deal with it later. Just don't get in the habit of putting it in the science folder. My students who put things in all different folders, that's really difficult to recover from. So try to really honor, at least, if you don't get it in the right folder, at least just have it loose in the backpack until you're ready to deal with that. So I know that it's hard sometimes when classes are changing and stuff to get everything managed. With that, I'm going to end this video. I'll see you soon. Good luck. Take care.